But in homeopathy also we are doing exactly the same thing, but we are not introducing it on the physical plane at all. That makes all the difference. We are introducing it on the dynamic plane, not on the physical plane, and then it acts only as an anti-poison and not a poison. This is proved time and again by all the provings of all the drugs. This is the only strong point in homeopathy which no other system has, that we are not permitting to introduce a poison into the constitution on the physical plane. We are stimulating the vital plane with the vital counterpart of a poison, which is stimulated by the process of dynamization and dilution, and then it is meeting only the vital body and not the physical body, and immediately the vital body is producing its violent reaction against it, and the fight ends within a short time, and no physical tissues are spent in the war. But in the process of vaccination, it is just the opposite. We introduce the lymph itself directly, or the serum. Then it meets the constitution on physical terms, and the constitution has to react only on the vital terms, not on the physical terms. So, before the constitution opens a war, the disease attacks the physical tissue, and we have a physical scar also left afterwards, and in the war the vital force gains, but at the same time we have what is called a conditioning of the whole constitution caused by the introduction of the lymph into the constitution, and for all physical and metabolic purposes the fellow is healthy, but for purposes of mental behavior and the nervous system and the mind and the cortical tissues are affected. He is no more normal mentally and on the nervous plane, and in many cases there is an inauguration of hyperactivity in the fellow, a condition similar to that of a wrong stimulation of thyroid, and this is the opening of Dr. Burnett and his followers, and to that effect they gave many thousands of examples, and the whole thing results in a stage of incurability after about 2 or 3 decades, and the incurability may show on any part of the constitution. Sometimes it may be in the lungs, sometimes it may be in the heart, and more frequently cancerous state of any particular location. And we will come to the point of cancer also within a few minutes, about the curability of cancer. But according to the observations of Dr. Burnett, the percentage of cancerous deaths increased enormously after the introduction of vaccination. And if we take the world records of cancer, I think many of you know the graph of it. There was a decrease before the Second World War, and after the Second World War till now there is an increase of percentage and no decrease. Every year there is an added percentage to the deaths by cancer, and the number of vaccinations we discover and introduce to the human constitution is increasing. It is for us to choose. If we have to live without these epidemics and die of some incurable condition, or have these epidemics and die a more natural death. This is one dimension which we have to take notice of. And many sensible doctors question us that what if we have smallpox? Can't we use our scientific discoveries to have a better way of treating a smallpox patient and making it run a safer and lighter course in spite of vaccinating him and creating some unknown clinical condition? Suppose there are people who get smallpox, then what is the trouble? Are we not getting diseases that are not to be cured, that could not be cured? With all our modern knowledge and technology and equipment of medicine, the number of incurable disease cases are the same, if not increasing. Helpless situations are as many as they were, and it is for us to decide if we welcome vaccination or leave it to nature. You can ask me, are you not vaccinated? I was not at all vaccinated in my childhood, and till today I never allowed any one of my children and grandchildren to be vaccinated. And every one of us, we are receiving only homeo treatment, and that too on orthodox lines of homeopathy. And my family is a big family. My children, my brother's children and my grandchildren all put together not less than 50 members. And we have no record till today of smallpox in our family, or chickenpox, or cholera, or any epidemic. Our children had measles fever, and there was a natural and normal cure of measles fever, after which they are healthy. This is my experience about the matter. And after I have grown old, only 10 years ago I had compulsory vaccination, because otherwise I would not have permitted to leave the country and take this flight. That is the only occasion when I had one vaccination. So it is for us to wait and decide. And another factor is the countries who do not receive total vaccination. For example, India, the countries that are backward in the scientific progress and economic progress, we have about 50% of the people not vaccinated because of the irregularity of the people of the medical profession, and people are still lucky, and their general health is definitely better than the health of those in the Occident. And the citizens of Occident are well protected against diseases, whereas the citizens of a backward country like India have better resistance against disease. This is the essential difference which no one can deny after observation. An average illiterate, uncultured Indian is by birth more resistant against diseases than a well-informed citizen of the Occident. For example, when there is some nasal catarrh and bronchial infection in the Occident, it is a menace and a dread, and it is just a common and normal thing in India, and no one dies with any infection because he has a catarrhal condition of the nose and bronchus. I think this difference in the resistance is due to the less number of vaccinations the people have there. We have only 3 or 4 types of vaccinations in India, and those families who do not get their children and grandchildren vaccinated, and those who are following the homeopathic or the traditional Ayurvedic treatment on an exclusive basis, they are definitely healthier mentally and physically, and this is my experience. I don't say that one should not get vaccinated, but in course of time there are certain consequences for which one should be prepared. It is left to us if we choose this alternative or the other. Now, something about the substitution for vaccination. There is the theory of prophylactics in homeopathy also. A section of homeopaths argue very strongly for prophylactics, and another section they refuse to have them. Here, when we go to the masters of homeopathy and take the fundamental scientific tenets of the system, no medicine is permitted to introduce into the constitution unless the constitution shows any symptom. So, there is no question of prevention through medicinal methods, and if we have preventive medicines, we should accept that the use is not homeopathic but something else, because the homeopathic basis itself teaches us stop repeating the dose when relief begins to set in, and then we have no justification in giving him one more dose. Then only we can call it homeopathy, and we cannot call the system, the treatment homeopathy by merely using homeopathic remedies. The method should be homeopathic if we want to call it homeopathy. And if we take medicines like variolinum, foxinum, etc., there are doctors who use for their clients seasonally. Some doctors use variolinum 6 for 7 days continuously when there is season. Why for 7 days? Simply because God created the world in 7 days. Even that great God took rest on the 7th day. He used the medicine only for 6 days. So, the homeopathic doctor is more powerful than God. Have we any justification? And if we use only 1 dose for 1 day, have we any justification? If we want to call it homeopathy, we have no justification. If we can call it autopathy, we can use it. That is one's own system upon himself. Or homeopathy, that is all systems put together. And how to protect fellows from epidemics? My declaration is use homeopathy on orthodox scientific lines from the birth on an exclusive basis to all averagely healthy born children. There is no occasion when the fellow is attacked by smallpox or chickenpox or cholera, etc. And if you can create such a generation, in the next generation there is no smallpox or no cholera or no chickenpox in any nation, and also no conditioning of the vaccination, no after effects of the vaccination, and no unaccountable death. That is my open declaration, because after 20 years experimenting with about 4,000 families who live with me and about whom I know daily, about 4,000 families, they follow my way of living and they are living under these circumstances. And the health conditions of those families prove that there need not be any protection against epidemics, provided you begin to treat the families according to orthodox homeo lines exclusively. Those who have come to India, they have seen something of these families, and others are also welcome to examine the people in those families. So, even using homeopathic medicines as prophylactic is against the principle of homeopathy. Treat the fellow when he needs medicine, give him the medicine. Stop medication immediately when relief sets in. And until the fellow is once again sick, don't think of medicine. And now, after once he is healthy, we want some method which keeps the fellow up in health without going into disease. Here we have no provision in homeopathy at all. Every system has its own limitations, and I don't argue that homeopathy has no limitations. As long as we have a disease, homeopathy has everything to do. The moment we are healthy, homeopathy has nothing to suggest to us to maintain health or to protect ourselves against swara. We have to make a supplementation of another branch of science, and that is the orthodox and scientific Ayurveda. Many people are in the Occident are mistaken that Ayurveda is a system of medication. It is thoroughly wrong. I studied Ayurveda for 7 years from my father. Ayurveda is a science of health, and it informs us reliable and practical methods of preserving health and not going into disease. This is what 2/3 of scientific Ayurvedic literature contains. In the last section, last 1/3, it is called the chapters of atonement. That is rectification. That is, whenever we commit something sinful, in the scriptures there is what is called atonement. That is a process of purification and purge. Under that heading, Ayurveda gives us medication. That's not the main purpose of Ayurveda at all. It has a system prescribed to us about our bath and our food, etc. And it has everything to prescribe about our social activities, vocational selection, and the construction of villages, towns and cities, and the construction of the various parts of the house, and the arrangement of streets and roads in a village or a town, and the method of protecting the water supply away from the drainage, and the science of bath, the science of the applying oils to the body, and the science of smoking, not tobacco, but some valuable, for example, sandalwood powder and some mild non-medicated herbs. It is Ayurveda and not medication at all. So we can make a healthy supplementation of both the systems. Cure yourself permanently with homeopathy, and then preserve your health with Ayurveda. This is what I am teaching for my students all these years. And according to my belief also, it is against the principles of homeopathy to use homeopathic prophylactics also. There is no need of using preventives, no need of using preventives. This is about vaccinations and vaccines. If we have any questions. My conviction about such cases is wait and observe the behavior of the constitution and proceed accordingly with your homeopathic drugs. Because one fellow may produce the symptoms that show the necessity of Tuya, another fellow may produce the necessity of Sorinum, like that. Exactly, yes. It gives carcinosum even higher, because the same principle holds good to any medicinal substance, and there is no exception with any medicine, and with carcinosum also, because the more dangerous the substance is, the more non-dangerous the homeopathic dose is. With safe results. I have used the carcinosum in 200 and 1000 C also. The fellows are safe, nothing to worry about it. Yeah, that's all. Always the basis is same. Yes, sir, whatever. In the case of one patient of tapeworm, yes, I used carcinosum 1001 dose, and within 6 days, the triple antigen, BCG, all these. Yes, they have to. No, that's not a bad idea. I do it many times for children who got vaccinated. Within the first 10 minutes we give 1 dose of Tuya. You can do it. But after some delay, that is after 1 year or 2 years, it's not Tuya, but we have to wait for the indicated remedy. I think in 200 CH, or we call it C in India, we don't know the equivalent. That is centesimal dilution 200. That is reliable. Sometimes when we give in high dilution, it may fail to act in certain constitutions. 200 always acts on everyone, and it is a sure dose. But Kosakovian is a little bit different from the other, from the centesimal Hahnemannian dilution, but it is always safe to use the decimal and centesimal system. And when they are not available, we are forced to use Kosakovian. That is what I do in Belgium. Because the Kosakovian system was not in vogue when Hahnemann or Kent or Farrington were existing. So we don't know whether they would have accepted this or not. there is not much difference when prepared in bigger containers. But if they prepare in smaller containers, there may be a difference in the dilution, and no one is capable of explaining whether it makes any difference or not till now. I have approached many experienced doctors of Europe and tried to discuss the matter with them, but no one is ready to explain the differences in clear-cut terms. So it is better to make the centesimal dilutions available and use them as far as possible until the other system is explained in clear, definite terms. Yes. For example, when I was in Munich last year and the other, I could get only centesimals there, and in Italy I could get them. I think in Belgium and France there is some difficulty. I think if we order them, they prepare it and give it in good format. Sure. Yes, it was the origin. It was the origin of the Korsakovian dilutions used in the battlefield. In fact, Korsakov never argued for the method in which he diluted, but with the limited equipment, he could make that dilution and supply it to the battlefield. It is in no way dangerous, but what I mean is we want a clear-cut explanation as to how to use those dilutions. That's all. Just as we want a reliable materia medica for a new drug proved, like that. You mean vaccination? Pardon? That is, yes. No, same thing. It's the same vaccination. Same thing. It is not so safe. It also comes under vaccination. Provided the child is being treated in homeopathy exclusively, all these things are not necessary. That's it. Of course, we have to proceed from the other way, that is to convince the medical authorities about it. That is the right path. We have to make the agitation more and more clear. No, we have to make the medical authorities understand